All right. Welcome to another episode of the Miami Tech Pod. I got Maria and Brian as co-hosts with me on the pod because Caesar is out today. Our normal lead host is in Vegas on a bachelor party. So he's skipping out today. So good for you, Caesar. But he did have to flex on us this morning, right? You saw the text. He sent us, basically, Amanda, he sent us a picture of his private jet that he was able to get out to Vegas. And so apparently when you're the lead host of the Miami Tech Pod, your life changes and you fly private. You know, I don't know. I'm definitely
Well,
flying
let's clarify. This isn't Caesar's bachelor party. He's
right. He's
happily
got a
married, wonderful
party,
wife.
but still,
Yeah.
like, you know.
I'm questioning whether or not we need to do an audit of our sponsorship dollars. But seeing as we have almost no sponsors, I don't know how he could have afforded the private jet. That's a subtle plug for anyone who wants to sponsor the pod, by the way.
Or anybody who wants to fly us private, you know, we'll take that as well. But nonetheless, Caesar, you enjoy. We got you covered because we have an amazing episode in store. We have Amanda Geotz, founder of House of Wise, on the podcast. Amanda, welcome, and thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I feel like we're all like Twitter friends, and now we get to be in real life.
For sure. No, it's awesome. I got the pleasure of getting to know you over the past few months. We're collaborating on some stuff that we hopefully can talk about in a little bit. But want to let our listeners learn more about you, your background, learn more about House of Wise. So like maybe you can tell us about yourself and what led you to start House of Wise as the company.
Yeah, so unlike Miami, I grew up on a farm in central Illinois, so I'm a Midwest girl. My town is like 800 people, so it's quite different here. And then I moved to New York back in 2009. I was working for Ernst & Young at the time, doing some hedge fund marketing and then managing their Entrepreneur of the Year program. So I really have been close to entrepreneurs since my first job out of school, kind of shepherding entrepreneurs through that program and analyzing their businesses, et cetera. After that, I decided to take a complete 180. I worked for a celebrity wedding planner for a few years where I managed his brand across licensing deals, reality TV shows, you name it. And then I also planned like over 100 weddings, which was really cool, and my opportunity to kind of travel the world, which was awesome. Then that led me to start my first tech startup, which was in the wedding space. I saw a huge opportunity and just pain point as a wedding planner that I was doing the same thing over and over again where there was no system in place. And so did that for a few years. That was back in 2011, 2012, when the New York City tech scene was really starting to heat up. And I was in an accelerator program there. It's so funny because what's happening in Miami now really reminds me of that time in 2011 when everybody was having meetups and connecting everybody, and you form these very unique bonds with other founders. So I did that for a few years. That led me to The Knot, which is the global leader in all things weddings. I was at a female pitch night one night pitching, Availanders was my company, and the founder of The Knot, Carly Roney, was on the panel, and she pulled me aside and she was like, you know, we're kind of doing something similar at The Knot. Would love to bring you on and lead brand. So was there for the last 5 years. So fast forward to starting House of Wise, I found myself kind of at the height of my career. I was managing a team of 30 marketers. The Knot had just been acquired by a private equity firm. We were merging with our biggest competitor. It was exactly what I wanted to be doing. It was so fun. But then personally, I had 3 kids under the age of 4, and I had just filed for divorce. And, if you look at society and like meme culture, even everybody celebrates that like glass of wine or 2 at night as your like wind down period. So of course, like kind of just like as a zombie going through all this stuff, I would like put my kids to bed, have the glass of wine at night. Never felt like I had a tumultuous relationship with alcohol, but layering on all the things that I was dealing with my anxiety, I just wasn't sleeping well. My anxiety attacks were increasing. And so I started researching. I'm like, there has to be a better way. And I had a personal stigma around cannabis. And really was raised in a very conservative household where, alcohol was okay. Everybody drank, but like heaven forbid you touched cannabis. And so,
and we grew up in like the Nancy Reagan era where our parents looked like Nancy Reagan, like,
right.
This is your brain on drugs. Just say no, right? All that
Exactly.
stuff.
Dare.
Yep.
So I turned to it out of desperation, but before I did a ton of research about like CBD, THC, what are the differences? What's the endocannabinoid system in your body? Like, how does it interact? Like all these things. I actually nerded out and started talking to hemp farmers to understand like how do they know when it's going from hemp to marijuana, and just like understanding strains. And so I started using it. I started microdosing THC at night, using CBD during the day. But what I found when I was exploring the CBD landscape is there's so many products that speak to like this like getting high culture. And I'm like, I don't want to be high. I just want to remove my anxiety and be able to function at my best and sleep better. And then there was just no transparency. Like when the Farm Bill was passed, it was called the green rush for a reason. Like all these people were just slapping labels on oil that they had no clue where it came from. And in my experience, like there were days that I was going from like a courtroom to a board meeting, and I would try to take a product and all of a sudden I had bloodshot eyes, and I was like, that's not okay. And then there were other products that would make me groggy because they were mixing it with different things. And so when COVID hit, I was still leading marketing for the wedding industry, which was, just completely rocked by COVID. We woke up one day and there was 400,000 couples that had to cancel their wedding in 48 hours because of the lockdown. So it was chaos. But I saw all of my friends, whether they're parents or not, just really struggling and then using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And so I had already had the idea of House of Wise and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to create. COVID actually was the forcing function for me to realize like women need this now more than ever. And so that's when I started to put pedal to the metal, work with my chemist, because of all of our products are uniquely formulated. They're CBD plus active ingredients so that you can have the functional effects that you're looking for. And we have sleep, sex, and stress as our three functions. And so yeah, I have a non-traditional founder background, meaning starting House of Wise, I raised my pre-seed while I still led marketing at the Knot, built it in nights and weekends, got the R&D going, got the packaging done, got the branding ready, and then launched December 1st. Still, I had a part-time job at that time. I was then CMO, a part-time CMO at that time. Then in March, we raised our seed round, and that is when I went full-time. So it was not until I could actually, because I'm a single mom, I have 3 kids, I couldn't do the like, I'm quitting everything, no health insurance, no paycheck. Like I couldn't do that. And luckily I found amazing investors who believed in me and my ability to time manage. And so that was my route to launching House of Wise. And so we're 9-month-old startup, and lots to say about that.
So the THC or the CBD industry, or cannabis industry, I guess is the right word, is super complex, right? So what are some of the challenges you run into in this space? Because like I know a little bit about it. I built some software for a CBD company, and I know there's so many there's regulatory issues and things like that, and sort of chain of custody issues and stuff like that. Like, what have been the biggest challenges that you guys have run into, or things that you were surprised by in this?
I mean, I'll talk about like 3 big ones. One, fundraising, right? If you're trying to fundraise from traditional funds, you have to look at who their LPs are, where that money comes from, and what vice clauses they have. And so many LPs have very clear vice clauses, so you can't even talk to those funds. So I would do a ton of research just to understand where they take their money from, because that would dictate if I should even have that conversation. So that's number one. Fundraising was a whole shit show. Second is payment processors. So for example, we're built on Shopify. Stripe is the Shopify preferred payment, right? Stripe has a strict no CBD law. So now you have to have these merchant brokers passing through and having like 3 layers of different tech stacks just to accept a payment, because there's all these handoffs that you have to do. You can't go directly to Stripe, which causes friction and a lot of unnecessary tech debt, right? So that's number 2. And then I would say number 3 is distribution. You cannot have, Facebook has very, very strict advertising rules, and mine are ingestibles. And so you'll see that a lot of CBD companies will create topicals so they can just run Facebook ads, but ingestibles you can't. And so we have tried to run a few ads and we continue to get shut down time after time when we're doing everything that they said that you are supposed to do, but they immediately see you as a CBD company and they shut you down. And I would add the 4th one is like, people have such a unique, like in a false sense of what CBD is, and it's federally legal. And yet you look at any tech platform, like we just had this with SMS. We were trying to find an SMS provider. People are lumping it as like a tobacco company. And so we can't even use Shopify's native SMS. We can't use Klaviyo's native SMS. So we have to continue to find these like obscure software providers that aren't necessarily open APIs that you can like really build on and create like great UI UX. So it's just all, it's like the whack-a-mole of building a company. You think that you're like going and then something pops up. You're like, why? Why is that the case?
I forget what podcast I was listening to the other day, and they were saying that someone can make a ton of money just being the Stripe and tech stack for what they called Vice, because it's like, and I get why Stripe is the way it is on this stuff. They have relationships with their banks and the networks and stuff like that. And, for such a small percentage of their business, why would they risk those bigger contracts and stuff? But someone like that could be, an interesting byproduct for you guys, is to figure out how do you productize or monetize all those learnings, because
100%.
the next
I have a list of companies. I'm like, if I had more people, more money, like I would build a solution for this, because you're totally right. There's a whole vertical that needs disruption.
I got to say, Amanda, I mean, this just goes as a testament to how much you care about this mission, right? Because like building a startup is freaking hard. Like in the CBD industry, you're on like super hard mode, like expert mode, right? If this was a video game, right? There's all these obstacles. So, kudos to you. I tip my hat to you for just kind of plowing through all these brick walls that are in front of you. Like you said, like the VC clause, like most entrepreneurs don't even know that those things exist, so, more power to you.
Thanks. I will say, like, because it's my second startup, you kind of already know how hard it's going to be. I didn't know how crazy the CBD world would be, but it makes me even more excited to build a company in this space, because one of our core values is transparency. We're building in public. We share a lot of what we're doing, but also we share like where our stuff is sourced from, how we're making it. And to me, that is what women need. They need these products so they can live a better life. And we're being transparent about all the hardships, but also like why they need it and where we're producing it from. So I don't know. It just keeps me going. But yes, I chose like the hardest thing to build, I think.
Are you starting to see the regulations change or improve, or it's still way too slow?
It's so slow. No, I mean, it really is. Like the Farm Bill was passed 2018. 2018. So it's been a few years and we're still seeing you can't, like Facebook is probably the guiding light for many of these smaller companies, and Facebook won't even let us advertise. So you can just imagine like everybody's waiting for someone else to kind of take the lead here and assume the risk, which until the FDA really steps in and starts to put more money behind efficacy, which is why we work with our growers actually based in Israel. They have a farm outside of Denver, Colorado. But the reason I selected them is because they actually have one of the leading cannabis research labs in Israel. So they actually can prove why the strains are effective. They're doing testing and research reports, et cetera. So that to me, I think until the FDA starts to put money behind this industry to prove what it can do, then we're still struggling because there's a lot of just bad players in the space.
So at least it's creating a bit of a moat for you to have to deal with all this. But so switching gears a bit to kind of you ending up in Miami. I think we originally met at a dinner we hosted a group of us kind of did to welcome you back in February before. I think you definitely hadn't moved yet. But I would love to hear kind of what made you move here, what the experience has been so far, anything surprising you found.
Yeah, so the origin story is actually on Twitter, where Mayor Francis tweeted out the infamous tweet, and I saw this, like, everybody talking about it. My whole feed was just about Miami, and it was around December, January, and so everybody was coming here anyway because it was warm. COVID restrictions were a little like less intense, and so everybody was coming here. So I tweeted out, might move to Miami just because the mayor is a brilliant marketer. And he DM'd me, or someone from his team DM'd me, and I'm pretty sure it was him, and said, let's talk. How can we make this happen? So I'm divorced, but my ex and I have a really great relationship. And so we sat down. He's also a founder. And I was like, okay, where are we going after COVID lifts? Like, because we were homeschooling our kids in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was with them. And we're like, let's go check out Miami. And so we each individually took turns, like coming here, meeting with the mayor and getting to know people. And it was a no-brainer for us. So we moved our whole little modern family down here. And the thing that's been the most surprising to me is how authentic and intentional people are about getting to know you as a person, not just as a business person, if that makes sense. Like, people are more open to it's not just these like transactional, like, let's grab coffee and talk about how we can help each other, or like, let's go to a business dinner. People are allowing like the holistic view of a person to come in. Like, I think the first time we met, we were talking about our kids and all this stuff, and it just feels more authentic, which then actually leads to better business relationships too, because you care more about that person. So that's
it's less transactional, it feels like.
Yeah. And being from the Midwest, like, I'm like, want to tell you my life story before like I ever talk about business. And so it feels like the Midwest took a vacation.
We were actually having this conversation last night at dinner, and Jadon was like, yeah, I met all these people in the last 6 months, and I got sick, and everybody was like, do you need soup? Can I send you anything? How are you feeling? And he was kind of echoing the same sentiment about the kind of caring about the person as a whole. And I know in like a lot of the Latin culture, it's like you walk into a business meeting and it's kind of frowned upon if you get straight to work. You first have to have the 20 minutes of like, how's your family? How's your dog? I heard your kid was sick. Are they better? Before you can ever get down to business. So I see that. And I'm glad to hear that it's still alive and well.
But it's kind of crazy because, like, if you had told me 2-3 years ago that Miamians were authentic and genuine, I'd been like, really? Are you sure about that? Like, we've been known for being fake and superficial and super transactional.
So I think there's a difference. I think there's a distinction between just Miami as like the LA of the East versus like the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Miami, and like the type of founders that Miami attracts. And Miami is a city built on transplants and immigrants. So with that, we are very welcoming, and obviously it's a rising tide lifts all ships. Everybody wants to help each other. We do have, to shake off that stereotype. There always been a saying, Amanda, that Miami is a sunny place for shady people, that we have to shake off. But like every major city has those stereotypes and it has those things. Like, Amanda, you can attest that New York, had a bunch of, shady people as well. LA has a bunch of shady people. So as Miami becomes a top 5 city in the country, it's just, we're going to have to deal with it. Plus, let's be real. This city was built really in the 70s and 80s on cocaine and a lot of things that built kind of the economy to start with, a lot of money that was made in shady ways. So it's just it makes it harder. But I mean, like Amanda said, Mayor Francis Suarez, he's a brilliant marketer, and he's definitely changing the perception of the city for the better, shining a light on builders like Amanda who are coming to the city and really building awesome things.
No, I mean, I think it's amazing that this is a community now that people are like actively seeking out, versus fleeing in order to make more money elsewhere or to raise more money elsewhere, And so I'm curious, like, are there things that we can help you with to help you navigate Miami, or things you're curious about in Miami? I mean, it's not often in Miami that you have 3 natives like with you at one time. Being a Miami native is more of a rarity than it is a commonality. I don't know what's the right word for that.
Well, I love that Amanda's made friends with Gertrude the ducks.
Yeah, tell me about Gertrude the ducks. I've seen this on your Instagram. What's the deal? What's the story behind that?
That is hilarious. Oh my God. So on Instagram, in the mornings, I walk to a coffee shop, and there are these. The first day I moved here, I'm like walking and I'm like, what the is this? Like, it is the ugliest bird I've ever seen. And so I was like, guys, what is this? And they were everywhere. There was like ducklings, etc. And everybody responded to my Instagram story being like, those are like Florida ducks. And so I named it Gertrude, and I like say hi to Gertrude in the morning on my way to coffee, and everybody knows Gertrude.
What an appropriate name!
Big follower.
An appropriate name for a Florida duck, Gertrude.
Oh my gosh, Maria, that just made me laugh so hard.
Her Miami name is Gertie. Thank you very much.
Well, last night I was talking to Champ, and he's like, was it Champ? I forget who it was. And they're like, what's up with all the roosters? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
oh my God. P.S. I love everybody. Your Champ is amazing. Don has like invited me to his barbecue. Like, all amazing. See, everybody knows everyone, and it's awesome. In New York, if you were naming people, I'd be like, I don't know who that is. Because the odds of you knowing someone, but like all the people you're talking about are just amazing humans. Like, I just went on vacation with the Swag Up founders just because
I have been globetrotting. I love watching that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We were having dinner one night, and because I crashed on their couch. I had never met Helen until I crashed on her couch for a week when I was trying to figure out where I was going to live in Miami. And we became like great friends during that time. I ended up choosing a building right next to them. We can see each other when we're both on our balconies. And one night we're just having dinner, and I was like, I really want to go to this concert. And they're like, let's go. And so we just went on a vacation. But like, those are the fun things that I feel like are happening here because everybody's just like doing life together. But so my question to you guys, since I have all 3 of you, like, fall and winter are very special to me as like a Midwest girl, and then New York, and I'm an October birthday. I am struggling to figure out how, because you don't have seasons, like you just don't. So what do I do? Where do I go to just embrace like a change of seasons? Like Halloween is coming, like fall, and then also getting into like the holiday spirit. What do people do?
That's a great question. So I'll let Maria and Brian add on to this, but the initial thing that comes to mind, first of all, Miami Shores, which is where we met, where my studio was. Remember when we recorded in person? So they have a bunch of churches there and a lot of pumpkin patches that you can take the kids to. So lots of little pumpkin patches of the fall thing. Now for winter, and I'm forgetting fall stuff, so Brian and Maria, please chime in. But winter, there is the infamous Santa's Enchanted Forest. All right. Santa's Enchanted Forest in South Miami. I mean, this is an institution. It moved?
It moved to Hialeah.
Oh, moved to Hialeah. Terrific. It's
Get the
it's an
real full experience now.
Get the real Santa's. If it's in Hialeah, that's going to even enhance Santa's Enchanted Forest. It is like a fair, like a youth fair kind of vibe.
Okay.
But all Christmas themed, like fake snow with the snow blowers, and like it's a Miami institution.
It's like if Carney's had invented a Christmas themed like county fair.
Exactly.
Thing, right?
Correct.
And
But
the funny thing is
Spanish.
It's owned by a Jewish family.
Yep.
And so they've owned this thing for 40 years or something, and it's been this institution for all locals. You had to go at least once, right?
Oh, for sure.
And for some people, it was like this was the annual ritual. You know, my dad used to tease my sister and say that he was gonna have her wedding at Santa's Enchanted Forest, and I think that's why she chose to be married out of season or out of their season. So.
If you like put it on Twitter that like I just heard about Santa's Enchanted Forest, you're gonna get a bunch of Miamians that are gonna tell you their own personal story because it's a thing. You know?
And there's like the little theme song that goes with it, like the commercials that they would run.
Enchanted Forest. It'll haunt you for days. But insider tip: whenever you go to Santa's Enchanted Forest, make sure you go to Tropical Chinese. But now it moved, so you can't even do that. Damn it. It used to be a tropical park, and there was the best Chinese restaurant in Miami is called Tropical Chinese, and it's in that area. So that'll have to be a separate stop now. But
I think another fall and winter tradition here in Miami is you go down to Homestead, and there's I think they're Mennonites. I'm not sure what they are, but like they have this berry farm. It's called Nos Berry Farm, and they have the best cinnamon rolls. And like you can take your kids and they can pick strawberries, and then they can pick other veggies. The best. And in that area, there's like hay rides, and there's other like sort of like country stuff, right? And there's great Mexican like taco places down there too, because that's like the concentration of Mexican population in South Florida.
I love that juxtaposition of a good taco and a cinnamon roll.
I mean, there's like a 5-block difference between the two, but still, it's worth the day trip.
This is all farmland. Brian's
right.
That. The best.
How far out of Miami is that? Like, which way to get
45 minutes south.
Oh, that's not bad.
Like going to the Keys, towards the Keys.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still in Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
The best cinnamon rolls on the planet, because they're just like, they're so good, but they're light. I don't know what black magic they use, because they're so delicious and they're light at the same time. They're not heavy. And then you got to pair it with a strawberry milkshake from the strawberries that they have in their farm. It's fire.
But be prepared to wait in line.
What?
Be prepared to wait in line. You get there and there's like a half a mile line.
Yeah, usually
that's if you are a slowpoke and getting out of bed. If you get there like before 10 a.m., you're in and out of there in like 5 seconds. Because Miamians don't wake up before 10 a.m. on a Saturday.
The New Yorker in me is like a 5 a.m. up and working, so I got that one.
I feel like one question I have for Amanda, I feel like there's a lot of folks moving here, but when folks move here as with children and as parents, they always have a whole set of questions, and they always ask, is it a good place for somebody to move with children? So would love your perspective on how that's been.
Yeah. So we have 3 kids, and they're going to school in Coconut Grove because that's where their dad is. And I will say, like, the biggest question when you're moving to a new city is like, where are the great schools? Like, where do you go? And so everybody obviously had their own thoughts and opinions, and we're very, very happy with what's going on in Coconut Grove, and there's some great schools there. But I think the first question I had was just like, when I thought of Miami, because I had only been here for bachelorette parties and, partying, in your brain, the juxtaposition of what you think of Miami and then adding kids to that equation feels wrong. And so I will be the first to say I had that thought. I brought my daughter down here, my oldest daughter. We had like a little girls trip. We came down to just check out Midtown, check out different areas. And when you get into your own routine, like the coolest thing about Miami is it feels like a vacation. Like I bring the kids home from school, and then if they have energy, we just like go to the pool. and they go swim for a little bit. And coming from New York, you get so much more space here and so many more amenities. Like the buildings are so much more family friendly. Like my building has like a bowling alley and a movie theater and all these fun things that are the amenities that I would never be able to afford or touch in New York City. But yeah, and then like the Miami Tech parent group is incredible. And so if somebody's moving here, a part of the tech community, there's this WhatsApp group that you can literally ask any question and get a ton of responses of like, and people are trying to get together. Like Chris Adamo and Dave Fano from Teal, like on Labor Day weekend, we all brought our kids together and just grilled out and had them all play together. And it's you find people who have kids similar ages. And again, it's not about business. It's just about doing life together. And it's been incredible. So my kids are loving it. I will say that they need to learn Spanish faster because coming from Midwest and then New York, my kids were all born in New York. They are like the thing is understanding the tonation and the speed of someone who speaks Spanish as a first language versus English as a first language is different. And so they're like needing to learn the dialect faster. But other than that, I think it's going to make them stronger in life because they are learning Spanish way faster than because they're just immersed in it.
I think my pro tip on that front, I don't have kids yet, but my sister makes her kids watch cartoons on Netflix in Spanish. And like that, they're only allowed to watch the cartoons if they're in Spanish. And so my niece, who's 5 years old, has a better vocabulary than any adult. And like we're native speakers of Spanish. And like we'll turn to her and we'll be like, Margareta, how do you say XYZ? And she'll be like, claro, es blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, how did she learn that? And it's from Netflix.
I'm going to start doing that. If you come to my house, I'm just going to be watching Spanish cartoons.
Amanda's going to have a very thick telenovela accent. She's going to be like, bienvenidos a mi casa.
Oh, God.
Love that. Yeah, Spanish is a necessity, no doubt. They'll catch it. Even just like the little things, like going to get a pastelito and like things like that they'll pick up on just like living life in Miami.
Already, like my third grader, her teacher's name is it's Llopiz, right? And so an English speaker would be like Lopez, and she's like Miss Yopis, and and she's already got like the intonation, and I was like, that's amazing.
Love it. And plus, like Spanglish is a thing here, where like you literally just mix Spanish and English into sentences, and it becomes second nature. Want to shift back to House of Wise, and I mean the company is incredible. I'm a huge fan of what you're building and this whole journey. I've used the product many times, and I'm a big fan of it. What's next for House of Wise? We've seen kind of all the stuff you built so far, but I know you got big plans for this company. What's some of the stuff that's upcoming that you could let us know about, at least?
Yeah, so House of Wise sits at this interesting intersection of community, content, and commerce. And so we are launching our fourth product line next week, actually. And so this will probably be out by then. So we're launching Strength, which is our pre-workout, which people don't realize that CBD is a very powerful binding agent and carrier of active ingredients. And so many pre-workouts on the market, and I was a former personal trainer and athlete my whole life, and all pre-workouts have so much caffeine and so much just like non-proven ingredients in them. So I wanted to create something that was simple and effective for the woman who wants to just get a great 45-minute workout in. And so this gummy is CBD plus only 60 milligrams of caffeine, but because CBD is such a powerful binding agent and carrier, it heightens the effects without jitters, without the, half-life of caffeine to affect your sleep, like all those things. So super excited to launch our fourth pillar. So it'll be sleep, sex, stress, and strength. I don't know how long I'll be able to go with S's, but we'll see. We've got a few more products that we're like exploring R&D on, but really the next step is just growth. And we just launched our creator program, and investing in the community of women who we call wise women. And it's so funny in this world right now, the LuLaRoe stuff is coming out, and people are talking about MLMs, and we invest in community-led commerce, meaning we have over 500 women who have affiliate links. We're not an MLM because there's no recruiting. They don't recruit other people to sell these products. And they don't have to have upfront costs. Like, obviously you want to try the product before you tell other people, but micro affiliates have been around for years. And that is how we are distributing, because there's so many false narratives around cannabis. And when I was using cannabis in the very early days, people would trust me. If I said I was using something, they'd be like, okay, I'll try that because you are a high functioning human. And so they're like, whatever you're using, I'll use. And that's how women are going to learn about cannabis. So investing in what that community means and is, and making sure that we continue to create, we have a Slack channel where any wise woman who has an affiliate link can come in, talk about, the like multi hyphenate of a woman, which is we are business women, we can be sexual, we can be maternal, we can, like, whatever it is that you want to talk about right now that is so fragmented. Like, I have my mom's groups, and then I have my friends that I talk about sex with, and then I have, the business groups where I can talk about being a founder or whatever. And I want to start to bring those things together so that way we don't feel shame in being all of them. And so that's what the Wise Woman community is about. And then continuing to create a ton of content and community-led events for them.
I love that. And again, like I said, I'm a fan of the product, even though I'm not the target demographic. Do you have a lot of men that use the product too, even though you're focusing mainly on women?
Yeah. So we have a ton of wise men that they have named themselves. Men are even selling the products. We actually just contracted our first creator who is going to help us with the strength product. But yes, 100% men are buying the products, using the products. It's interesting because the sex gummy has been our top seller since we launched. And at first I thought it was mostly men buying it for their wives. It's actually women. But when we talk to women about the sex gummy and then men, they're like, this is awesome because it's not her fault. Like, women feel guilt when they have low libido, but what really they don't understand is as your stress goes up, cortisol goes up. Cortisol is a blocker for the hormones you need for your sex drive. And what our gummy does is allows your cortisol levels to come down so that your natural libido can kick in. And it removes the blame game for couples. And so that has been really interesting. And men are really excited about that because they're starting to understand why someone I'm obviously talking about heteronormative language here, but why her libido might be low. So I think I get really excited about the education part of the brand.
That's awesome. I think that, again, there's so many stigmas that you're breaking around everything that you're doing, around CBD and all the topics that you just discussed. So I'm a huge fan of the brand. For folks that are listening, Amanda, how could they check out House of Wise? How could they buy it? And then also, where can folks get in touch with you personally?
Yeah, so houseofwise.co is our website. And if you want to follow us on Instagram and you want to buy from a wise woman to support her, we're constantly featuring wise women on our Instagram feed. And then I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram's more Gertrude and my kids. Twitter is more building in public. But my DMs are open on both, and I try to stay on top of it. So obviously this is a Miami-based podcast. If anybody's in Miami and they want to hang, I'm new, so down to meet new people.
Awesome. All right, we'll drop all of Amanda's info for House of Wise and her personal links for Twitter and Instagram in the description of the podcast. Do reach out, check her out. Big fan of yours, Amanda. Again, what you're doing is amazing. And then also, I think just marketing, a masterclass in marketing in today's age, just how you're talking about your brand transparently and building it. And then also all the content you're sharing and how helpful it is. So keep doing what you're doing. We're big fans of yours here on the Miami Tech Pod.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you for such a warm welcome. I know meeting Maria at that dinner, and Will, we've hung out a few times, and Brian, we've been friends on Twitter. Like, I'm so appreciative of all the like warm welcome. So thank you guys for what you're doing to bring more awesome founders here.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, all of Amanda's links are in the description, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.